Our Sports Inquirer here with Coach Lanier from Georgia State basketball. We just talked about Louisiana, ups and downs. You split that trip. We'll start the Lafayette one first. It seems like that last few minutes just was not able to hold on to a lead. What do you take from that contest, and just what were your observations of what led to the struggles in that contest?
Well, I think coming off the Troy loss, we kind of were still harboring some of the disappointment from that game. They just outplayed us on our home court. The feeling of losing the winning streak at home, and I think we carried some of that baggage into the game. And you saw through most of the first half, we were limping through that game, and Louisiana came to play, and then in the second half, we woke up and started to play the game the way we were capable of and put ourselves in a little bit of a commanding position. And then I talked to our guards in the latter stages of that game and said, good guards win these games. And we got to go out and execute, defend, and make sure that our shot selection and our free throws give us the opportunity to get over the hump, and it starts with our guards. And it turns out their guard made two critical three-pointers at the end of the game, and we didn't get those stops, so credit to them. But it's a game that we feel like we didn't take advantage of a great opportunity on the road.
Yeah, and then Monroe, slow first. Well, actually, an interesting thing about Monroe, you were leading that contest, but only a 3-17 from three-point range. But what led to that win the second half, just to show that resolve that you mentioned that maybe lacked in Louisiana, and able to get a win at Monroe?
Yeah, you know what? I think we're a resilient group, and you see it from game to game. How many times have you seen us be down double digits and change the tenor of the game? Conversely, you've seen us up double digits and change the tenor of the game that way. And so we're still searching for that level of maturity, and you use the word resolve to close out games. But that was a game where I thought, detail-wise, our guys paid great attention to the scouting report. And even though we had some slippage during the course of the game that led to a run here or there by them, we still managed to find a way to tough our way through that game. So that was good for us, and now we get a chance to come back home and play against a team that's playing very well in conference play.
Corey Allen, two late jumpers in the part, like late in that contest when they got the lead down to 5, look, they're mounting a comeback, but his two jumpers really able to secure the win for you. Just talk about his contributions and his big part in that win.
Yeah, I mean, those were big shots. And again, it goes back to my point about the Louisiana game. There was a critical time in the game where their guard made 2 shots. In the Monroe game, our guy made 2 critical shots. And, guards are very critical late game. Ball handling, free throws, playmaking, and just command of the floor. And our 3 guys who play the most minutes, that's where they've got to start to take pride that when the game is in the balance, that our guys are the ones that are going to come out on top. And we've done it our share of times. We've had some opportunities we've let get away, but that's part of our journey. And
you mentioned and Damon was as well. He had a big night as well. Let's talk about him and being a double-digit scoring and what he's done for you this year.
Yeah, proud of Dame. And my thing to Dame is that he's a competitor, right? And when Dame gets focused on scoring, it's that the old adage that a watch pot never boils. But when he's engaged defensively and competitively, the ball's going to go in because he's too good of a player for it not to. So I'm not surprised that he had a bounce back game like that. And when he's just competing, the ball's going to go his way more often than not.
We talked earlier in the year, you said one of your benchmarks is defense. You're leading the conference in total defense as far as percentages and on the three-point line. Is the team starting to get to that defensive that mode or reaching those statistics that you want to see from them just at this part of the year?
Not yet.
Will they ever? Is that the question?
I don't know. I mean, those numbers are a reflection of the emphasis that we put on it, but I don't know if those guys have truly internalized the value of that to a degree that it really is our full identity. It's something that we do well because we work at it, and I think those guys have tried to buy in, but internalizing it is another step and another level. And we're really not there yet. We're trying to get there. It's a day-to-day process. But when you do get to that point, it's obvious to everybody watching. It wouldn't even be a question. You would just see that's who we are, and we haven't reached that level yet, but we've done a fair amount of good things.
And then lastly, you have Appalachian State Justin Forrest, second in conference in scoring. They're right along with you in the conference standings. Between first and I think maybe fifth or sixth is 2 games, which is nothing at this stage of the year. What have you just seen from Appalachian State, and just how critical is this contest towards your conference goals and preparing for the tournament?
Well, again, I know you've heard this before, 1 game at a time. And so certainly, we got 6 games left, and the standings will be determined after those 6. And tomorrow is just an opportunity for us to win 1 game on our home court against a team that really is playing well right now. They're coming off back-to-back wins. They're well coached. I've known Dustin for many years, so I'm not surprised. They're a very good defensive team, and they're scoring in the 60s, but they're keeping people scoring less points than them more often than not. And so they're playing. They got the second leading scorer in the league. They've got size on the front line. They've got Isaac Johnson back, who didn't play the first game, so he adds something. We didn't play Josh Linder in the first game when we played them, so we're a little bit more whole. They're whole, and it ought to be a really competitive contest.
Yeah, and just how do you get these guys? This last question at this time of year to avoid looking at the standings, or not looking back if this team wins and then if this team loses and all of that stuff. How do you just get the guys focused on just 1 game at a time mentality?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think you try to emphasize what's important, and you try to be diligent and consistent with that message. But it's very difficult to control what they look at and what they think about. But what you try to do is inundate them with the right information and hope it takes hold. And then as your program and the players in your program start to mature, they start to know what's important, even though they're aware of these other things. But they're always going to be aware of the standings and what's happening with other teams. That's part of sports. But it not being their focus is what you want it to become. They're going to be aware of it, but you want their focus to be on the things that you're emphasizing. And we just got to keep doing the job of focusing on what we can